जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी यशोदानंदन प्रजनन रंजन यशोदानंदन प्रजनन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय रात माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी जय गोपीचन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय रात माधवा कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा शील प्रभुपदा जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजक अष्टोत्तर सदस्य श्रीमती स्वयं ग्रसी भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन संस्थापकाचार्य शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजक अष्टोत्तर सदस्य श्रीमती स्वयं ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद लकोर किशोर दास महाराज की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद सच्चिदानंद शिल भक्ति विनोद ठाकुरा की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास महाराज की जय। जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। नमाचार्य श्री हरदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कोशि कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपिनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर्धन की जय। श्री श्री गौरांगी बेंगलोर ईश्वर भगवान की जय। श्री मायापुर धाम की जय। श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। गंगमई की जय। यमुनमई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वंदे की जय। श्री हरनाम संकीर्तन की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। इस्कॉन वर्तमान गुरुवंद की जय। समावित भक्त की जय। गौरव प्रेमानंदे। All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Patreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtihi. Hare Krishna, welcome you all to the Friday morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 13, Texts 8 and 9. Atmanam Brahma Nirvanam Pratyastamita Vigraham Avabodha Rasaikatmyam Anandam Anushantatam Avyachinna Yogagni Dagda Karma Malashaya Svarupam Avarundhano Natmanonyam Tadaikshata Atmanam Brahmanirpanam Patyas Tamita Vikraham Avabodha Rasaikatmyam Anandam Anushantatam Avyachinna Yogagni Dagda Karma Malashaya Svarupam Avarundhano Natmanonyam Tadaikshata Atmanam Brahmanirpanam Patyas Tamita Vikraham Avabodhar Rasaikatmyam Anandam Anushantatam Avyachinna Yogagni Dakta Karma Malashaya Swarupam Avarundhano Natmanonyam Tadaikshata. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. By expansion of his knowledge of the Supreme Brahman, he had already attained liberation from the bondage of the body. This liberation is known as nirvana. He was situated in transcendental bliss, and he continued always in that blissful existence, which expanded more and more. This was possible for him by continual practice of bhakti yoga, which is compared to fire because it burns away all dirty material things. He was always situated in his constitutional position of self-realization, and he could not see anything else but the Supreme Lord and engaged in discharging devotional service. These two verses explain the verse in Bhagavad Gita 1854. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na sochati na kankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. One who is transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he achieves pure devotion service unto me. This is also explained by Lord Chaitanya in his Shikshashtaka. In the beginning of the first verse, Cheto Darpanamam Janam Bhavamaha Davagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam. The Bhakti Yoga system is the topmost yoga system, and in this system, the chanting of the holy name of the Lord is the foremost performance of devotional service. By chanting the holy name, one can attain the perfection of nirvana or liberation from material existence and so increase one's blissful life of spiritual existence as described by Lord Chaitanya, Anandam Buddhivardhanam. When one is situated in this position, he no longer has any interest in material opulence or even a royal throne and sovereignty over the whole planet. The situation is called Viraktir Anyatra Syat. It is a result of devotional service. The more one makes advancement in devotional service, the more one becomes attached from material opulence and material activity. This is the spiritual nature full of bliss. This is also described in Bhagavad Gita 2.59. Param Dishva Nivartate. One ceases to take part in material enjoyment upon tasting superior blissful life in spiritual existence. By advancement in spiritual knowledge, which is considered to be like blazing fire, all material desires are burnt to ashes. The perfection of mystic yoga is possible when one is continuously in connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead by discharging devotional service. A devotee is always thinking of the Supreme Person at every step of his life. Every conditioned soul is full of the reactions of his past life, but all dirty things are immediately burned to ashes if one simply executes devotional service. This is described in the Narada Pancharatam. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatparat ena nilmanam. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupakata Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Vidapatakamallam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुष्टे देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Muham karuti vachalam pankam langeti grimvatpada mande Shri Gurum Dinatarna Paramadhamadam Shri Chaitanya Mission. Hare Krishna. So we see here, just to connect to the past, Dhruva Maharaj went back to Godhead and he had one son, he had a son in the name of Utkala. So right from his birth, Utkala was not attached to any opulence uh, like any king would uh, any person born in the family of a Kshatriya would be uh, attached to. So Utkala was always detached right from his birth, and we see how he meditated on the Supreme Brahman. I will go into this in a little more in detail. So by expansion of knowledge of the Supreme Brahman, he had already attained liberation from the bondage of the body. This is known as Nirvana. And he was situated in transcendental bliss, and he always continued in that blissful existence, which expanded more and more. So this particular verse refers to the impersonal description of the Brahmajyoti, known as Brahman, where people, common man, always say they want to become one with the Lord. One can never become one with the Lord. The Lord is Lord. He is Vibhu, and we are insignificant living entities. We are called Anu. So we and the Lord can never become one, but by the process of Bhakti Yoga, qualitatively one can become when one is fully surrendered. That is the actual meaning of that. So here it is mentioned that by knowledge, one burns out all the karma. By jnana, one is able to see only the Atma and then attain liberation. Some also say that bhakti ends in liberation. So there are three stages of realization of the Lord, that is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So this Brahman realization is a realization of the impersonal Brahman Jyoti of the Lord. The Lord's body is covered by a glowing effulgence, which is known as Brahma Jyoti. And many people say that the Lord does not have a form because they don't have understanding of the proper understanding of the scriptures. So they say that the Lord does not have a form, and then they try to, such type of people, they try to enter into this Brahma Jyoti. So just like you have a tube light that emanates from the tube, similarly the effulgence glowing coming out of the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called Brahma Jyoti, and this Brahma Jyoti actually covers the Lord. So people say that when they go to Brahma Jyoti, they become one with the Lord. No one can become one with the Lord. On the other hand, what happens is that those who worship the impersonal form of the Lord, for them it is very, very troublesome. And then what happens is when one enters by constitutional position, one's position is to serve the Lord. So when one living entity enters into Brahma Jyoti, he remains there idle without any activity. There is no activity in Brahma Jyoti. So when he feels suffer over a period of time, he feels when there is no activity, uh, he feels suffocated, and finally such living entities have to come back to this material world and take birth again. Uh, in, uh, so that's why Brahman realization is never recommended. Then the next stage of realization is called Paramatma. That is, the Lord is situated in everyone's heart as Paramatma, a four-handed form known as Paramatma. So yogis normally practice, the impersonalists practice the Jnana Yoga. The yogis, they try to meditate on on the Paramatma feature of the Lord. This used to be a practice during the Satya Yuga, and even in Satya Yuga, this had to be done after meditating for many thousands of years. One might become successful in seeing the Lord in the heart, but it's not a very easy process and absolutely ruled out in Kali Yuga. And the last realization stage of realization is Bhagavan, the full total personality of Godhead. So this is how the three stages come. So here Utkala was meditating on the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, and people say that this gives nirvana. We'll understand something about nirvana. So nirvana means ending the process of materialistic life. According to Buddha, this practice is normally followed by the Buddhists. So according to the Buddhist philosophy, there is only void after the completion of material life. But Bhagavad Gita teaches differently. So Buddhists believe that after the body comes to an end, everything is void. There is zero. But Bhagavad Gita gives a different teaching at all. Life begins after the completion of this material life. For the gross materialist, it is sufficient to know that one has to end this materialistic way of life. But persons who are spiritually advanced, there is another life after this materialistic life. So this means that when one takes birth in this material world, it has to come to an end. But as the Buddhists say that after this everything is zero, it is wrong. On the other hand, when one winds up his material body, that is the beginning of his next cycle of life, whether he gets a material body or a spiritual body. Another definition of the nirvana is that uh, one who reaches this stage of life on the Brahman platform, he does not feel the pangs of materialistic life. Some people generally think that material life is very, very difficult. So they try to meditate on this Brahman platform. In that state of life, there is no material miseries. But at the same time, it is totally in contrast to the constitutional position of the living entity, and one feels suffocated. And that stage is what is called Brahma Nirvana, as mentioned in this verse. That is, it is the absence of material miseries due to being constantly immersed in the Supreme. So he is absorbed in the form of the Lord, but then not in the personal form of the Lord, but in impersonal form. And one way of looking at it is nirvana or material cessation means there is also manifestation of spiritual activities or devotional service to the Lord, which is known as Krishna consciousness. That means those who worship the personal form of the Lord. But for impersonalists, it is they claim it to be nirvana. Then there is also a mention in the first canto. The activities of the Lord include liberation, but they are more relishable than the pleasure derived from nirvana or liberation. So, when one reaches the stage of nirvana, that also is relishable. But more than that is actually undertaking practical service of the Lord. So Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur have mentioned that the word used here as nirvana, vilambitani, that means that which minimizes the value of liberation. So to attain nirvana or liberation means one has to undergo a lot of severe type of tapasya, austerity. But the Lord is so merciful that he incarnates himself to diminish But by simply remember the transcendental activities of the Lord, one can defy even the pleasure that is derived from nirvana. So that means the uh, realization at the Brahman platform is very insignificant compared to the pleasure that is derived from remembering the activities of the Lord. And remembering the activities of the Lord means to reach the transcendental abode of the Lord and associate with Him, eternally engaged in blissful, loving service. This is one understanding. Nirvana also means to extinguish the pangs of material existence. When one enters a spiritual kingdom, one is automatically freed from material pangs. That means if one advances to Paramatma or Bhagavan feature, automatically he becomes situated at a higher platform than Brahma Nirvana. Uh, in fourth canto, there is a mention as to how success in yoga involves getting free from material coverings and enter into spiritual existence. So Lord Buddha's teachings of nirvana are based on this principle. Lord Buddha instructed his followers to give up these material coverings by meditation and yoga. So Lord Buddha preached by performance of meditation and yoga, give up this gross body. So Lord Buddha did not give any information about the soul. But if one follows this, he will ultimately become free from material coverings and attain nirvana. So if one follows the instructions of Lord Buddha, who practice this nirvana, one may give up the gross body, but his subtle body always remains. And it is that subtle body which covers the soul and takes it to the next body. So, but Buddha did not cover on this subject at all because he didn't even mention about the soul. Then in the seventh canto, there is a mention of what is a real spirit. Yeah, I'll explain. The Brahmana Nirvana on this mentions Brahmeti Paramatmi Bhagavad Paramatmeti Bhagavan iti Shabdyate. It says one feels Brahma Sukha or spiritual happiness by merging into the impersonal Brahman. And that Brahma Jyoti is the effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which I mentioned. So this is nothing but it consists of the rays of Krishna's transcendental body. Therefore, whatever transcendental bliss one feels from merging into Brahman is due to contact with Krishna. So that impersonal Brahma Jyoti also got connection with Krishna because it emanates from the body of Krishna. So when the mind is in touch with the impersonal Brahman, one becomes satisfied. That means one feels some satisfaction. But it also mentions that one must advance further to render service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For once remaining immersed in the Brahman effulgence is not always assured. So like I mentioned, if one enters the Brahman effulgence, his stay there with that Brahman effulgence is not always assured. That means one feels suffocated without doing any activity. If you are kept arrested within the four walls of your house, you are not allowed to go out. A point will come when one will get frustrated and he will feel how to get out of the house. That is a situation, or it is like another form of a jail. You can't do anything activity there. So finally you feel frustrated, and then finally the Lord brings that living entity back to the material world. But then here in that purport, there is a further line which says, as soon as one is intimately connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one surely becomes free from all material contamination. So the moment one becomes intimately connected, what is that intimate connection with the Supreme Lord? It is devotional service. Only we are spiritual, the Lord is spiritual, but that connection between us and can be made only through the process of devotional service. And further, there is this thing that if one advances further from a Brahman Nirvana platform, one enters the stage of devotional service. That means there are two ways to reach the topmost. One is one can straight away take up the process of devotional service. That is like going through the lift. One doesn't have to put a lot of efforts. On the other hand, there is a step-by-step process by which one starts with Karma Yoga. From Karma Yoga, one goes to Jnana Yoga. From Jnana Yoga, one goes to Dhyana Yoga. From Dhyana Yoga, finally, one reaches the stage of Bhakti Yoga. And this process takes many, many, many births compared to the direct lift process, which Srila Prabhupada always gives in his example. Uh, Directly practicing Bhakti Yoga is like going up by the lift, but going through the Yoga Ruda ladder is a very long and tedious process, and which is very, very, uh, uh, it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy also. So Srila Prabhupada also mentions in this verse about the sloka in Bhagavad Gita, which says, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na Sochati na Kankshati. Samasarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Dabate Param. The translation is, one who is transcendently situated at once realize the supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires not to have anything. He is equally disposed towards everything. In that state, he achieves pure devotional service unto me. That means actually, even by entering the Brahman platform, there is a possibility of taking up the other processes gradually to reach full happiness through the process of devotional service. And that is at that stage when one neither laments nor becomes joyful. There is also mention about Lord Chaitanya's verse of Sikshashtakam about Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahatakvagi Nirmapanam. That means actually in this Kali Yuga, the only process of deliverance is chanting the holy name of the Lord. Other than chanting of the holy name of the Lord, there is no other way, there is no other way, no other way. And out of all the processes of deliverance, the Bhakti Yoga is the topmost yoga system. And in that Bhakti Yoga also, chanting the name of the Lord is the foremost. So by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one can attain that same perfection of nirvana or liberation from material existence. And then gradually one can increase his blissful life of spiritual existence as described by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Anandambudhi Vardhanam Sloka. That means one by rendering devotional service to the personal form of the Lord, one can gradually elevate himself on the Brahman platform. Dhruva Maharaj had some material desires before he took up to devotional service. But then, by the mercy of his spiritual masters in Narad Muni, taking to the instructions which Narad Muni had given to Dhruva Maharaj, Narad Muni initiated Dhruva Maharaj and gave him a mantra to uh, chant, and also gave instructions to Dhruva Maharaj to worship the deity form of the Lord. Dhruva Maharaj exactly followed what Narada Muni gave, being the spiritual master, and gradually a stage came that he saw the form of the Lord in person. So that is where one can, Dhruva Maharaj was actually practicing Ashtanga Yoga. So the point is that even from, though he started with Ashtanga Yoga and also he had a material desire, by the costless mercy of a spiritual master like Narada Muni, he came to the stage of pure devotional service. That was Dhruva Maharaj's example. But though Dhruva Maharaj was a great devotee of the Lord, his son did not have a material desires. Like Jnanis also don't have material desires. They only want mukti. Mukti means liberation from this material world. But whereas devotees serve the Lord initially when they may have some personal desires, but there is some bhakti in it also. So mixed devotees perform devotional service with some mixed desires. They may have some material desires and simultaneously they may practice devotional service also. But then what happens is that depending on their determination, the Lord also gives mercy by depriving them of all such material opulences, by which the devotee has no other option but to surrender fully unto the Lord, and he can take up the process of pure devotional service. One example in the Srimad Bhagavatam is like Amrish Maharaj, who used everything possible. He was a great king, and being a king means having a lot of opulence. And as per Shastras, which is also a reality, when somebody is having a lot of opulence, for him to practice devotional service is very, very difficult. If somebody is able to have opulence and practice devotional service, it's a costless mercy of the Lord. Otherwise, it is difficult. Opulence is a big impediment in the path of devotional service. So there is an example in Srimad Bhagavatam about Amrish Maharaj, which says, the sloka says, Savai mana Krishna pada ravindayor vachamsi vaikunta gunanu varnane karo harer mandiram marjanadishu shrutim chakarachyuta Satkatodaye Mukundalingalya Darshane Drishau Tad Pratyagatra Sparshenga Sangamam Grinam Chetatpada Saroja Saurabe Tulasya Srimat Tulasya Rasanam Adi Arpite Padau Hare Kshetra Padanu Sarpane Sri Shiro Hrishikesha Padabhivandane Kamam Ch Dasye Ch Natu Kama Kamyaya Yatottama Sloka Janasraya Ratihi. This is a very famous sloka which Srila Prabhupada always give in many classes. The translation says Maharaja Ambrisha always engaged his mind in meditating upon the lotus feet of Krishna. His words in describing the glories of the Lord. So here Maharaja Ambrisha utilized all his senses in the service of the Lord. That example is given here. So his mind is always engaged in the meditating on the lotus feet of Krishna. His voice always describing the glories of the Lord. When we get time, normally we discuss a lot of Gramya Katha, whereas our mouth is given for glory, describing the glories of the Lord. Then his hands in cleansing the Lord's temple. Though he was a great king, he had no hesitation in cleaning the Lord temple. Many times we have a reservation in our mind that cleaning of the Lord's temple is an inferior service. But the Lord's service is absolute. There is no difference between worshipping the Lord as a deity form, what a pujari does, or cook. A devotee cooks in the kitchen, or washes the vessels in the kitchen, or someone cleans the Lord's temple. They are all absolute. There is nothing inferior, there is nothing superior. Then Maharaja Ambrisha engaged his ears in hearing the words spoken by Krishna or about Krishna. So there are two types of katha, Krishna katha, one spoken by Lord himself or about the Lord himself. That is, what is spoken by the Lord is Bhagavad Gita, and the narrations of the Lord is Srimad Bhagavatam. So he always engaged his ears in hearing the Lord's glories. He engaged his eyes in seeing the deity of Krishna and Krishna's temples and Krishna's places like Mathura and Vrindavana. He engaged his senses of touch in touching the bodies of the Lord's devotees. He engaged his sense of smell in smelling the fragrance of tulasi offered to the Lord. Many times we may think, what is the use of smelling the tulasi or flowers offered to the Lord? What is offered to the Lord, if we have faith in it, when we smell the same thing which comes as prasada, our sense of smell gets purified. He engaged his tongue in tasting the Lord's prasada. He engaged his legs in walking to the holy places and temples of the Lord. I mean, the king normally used to have a lot of opulence, a lot of chariots, a lot of servitors and all. But he always engaged his legs in walking to the holy places or even to the temples of the Lord. His head in bowing down before the Lord, and all his desires in serving the Lord 24 hours a day. So this way, Amrish Maharaj was always utilizing all his services in the service of the Lord. Then it further says, Maharaja Ambrisha never desired anything for his own sense gratification. He engaged all his senses in devotional service, in various engagements related to the Lord. That means I have mentioned all those so far in various service of the Lord. This is the way to increase attachment for the Lord and be completely free from all material desires. We all have a lot of material desires, but it is not very easy to become free from these material desires. Desires cannot be stopped, just as water from a river keeps constantly flowing into the ocean. So we have a lot of desires flowing into us. By the time we fulfill one desire, we have another 5 types of desires coming into us. But the same desires can be dovetailed in the service of the Lord, by which one becomes, or rather one develops attachment for the Lord. So when one is situated in that position, he no longer has any interest in material opulence or even a royal throne or even sovereignty over the whole planet. So this is the result of a pure devotion service. The more one makes advancement in devotional service, the more one becomes detached from material opulence and material activity. And this is the spiritual nature full of bliss. So this is the perfect stage of realization of the absolute called Bhagavan, by which one renders advances in devotional service by rendering service, practical service, by which one can become detached from material opulence and also material activity. So Lord Krishna also explains in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna in chapter 2, text 59, he says, Vishya vinivartante nirhas rasya dehinah rasavarcham rasopyasya param dishva nivartate. The translation says, the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, though the taste for sense enjoyment remains, but ceasing such engagement by experiencing a higher taste is fixed in Krishna consciousness. Just now I mentioned about it is not possible to restrict the desire, stop the desire. Similarly, it is not possible to restrict one's sense enjoyment. Even if one tries to restrict the sense enjoyment, the taste for that remains always subtly. But ceasing such engagement by experiencing a higher taste, that means a higher taste comes from higher engagement. So instead of trying to artificially stop sense enjoyment or sense gratification, if one tries to engage in devotional service, that is a higher taste. And by that higher taste, one becomes fixed in Krishna consciousness. This is the meaning of that. So the purport, it says, unless one is transcendently situated, it is not possible to cease from sense enjoyment. And the process of restriction from sense enjoyment by rules and regulation is something like restricting a deceased person from certain type of eatables. Somebody is deceased, and if you ask him to stop eating certain types of eatables, he will not be able to do that because lifelong he has been used to eating certain things. The patient neither likes such a restriction nor loses his taste for eatables. So one who has got that sickness, he can't have such restrictions. Even if he tries to restrict, the taste for such eatables always remains in one's mind. Similarly, the sense restriction by some spiritual progress like Ashtanga Yoga, uh, other yogas are recommended only for less intelligent person who have no knowledge. That means those who are less intelligent take to this tedious process of Ashtanga Yoga, etc. But one who has tasted the beauty of the Supreme Lord Krishna in the course of his advancement in Krishna consciousness no longer has a taste for dead material things. That means one who has developed a taste for serving Krishna through Krishna consciousness, he has no taste for anything which is dead or material things. And therefore, the conclusion is, therefore, restrictions are there for less intelligent neophytes in spiritual advancement. But such restrictions are only good until one has a taste for Krishna consciousness. That means unless and until one develops a higher taste of serving the Lord in transcendental loving service, the lower taste will not go. But if one relishes the higher taste, then automatically the taste for lower things vanish. When one is actually Krishna conscious, he automatically loses his taste for pale things. So by tasting the pleasure from Krishna consciousness, one loses the taste for other things material. So material desires are like a blazing fire, are like a miseries. And by advancement in knowledge, which is like a blazing fire, all the material desires are burnt to ashes. A devotee is always engaging in the supreme, thinking about the Supreme Lord at every step in his life. But just by engaging oneself in devotional service, all these are actions and reactions are burnt up. This is also mentioned in Narada Pancharati, where you might have heard this from popular sloka. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatparat enilmanam rishikena rishisekenam rikesha sevanam bhakti ruchyate. So bhakti or devotion service means engaging all this of one's senses in the service of the Lord, who is the master of the senses. So devotional service is nothing but engaging our service in the service of the Lord, who is the master of the senses. The Lord is known as Rishikesha, who is the controller of the senses. When the spirit soul renders service to the Supreme, there are two side effects. That means when we render service to the Lord, there are two things that happen. One is freed from all material designations, and simply by being employed in the service of the Lord, one's senses are purified. So two things happen, that by rendering service to the Lord, one becomes free from all material designations. I, me, mine, etc. We all have. But by rendering devotion service, we become free of that. And second thing is that by engaging our senses, all our senses are purified. Srila Prabhupada also mentioned that purified senses, when they are engaged in the service of the Lord, that is the perfectional stage of sense engagement, and that is Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga means utilizing our senses, the service of the Lord. And when someone is attached to Bhakti Yoga, he can automatically give up all material possessions, and such a person is called Paramahamsa. So when one renders constantly devotional service, he loses a taste for all material possessions. The Gyanis, they don't want to undertake austerities because they feel that they will be bound in this material world by taking austerities. Some examples are given, like Sukadeva Goswami walked out of his house as he came out of his mother's womb, because he thought the material world is one of developing some attachment. And because he didn't want to attach himself, he wanted to walk out of his house. But later, by the mercy of Lord of Vyasadeva, he came back and then he learned Srimad Bhagavatam from him. So similarly, Utkala, the son of Dhruva Maharaj, considered that this material world as Maya. One important point is that Utkala acted like a Brahmana, though he was not a Brahmana. He didn't want to rule the kingdom, so he left the kingdom. But all these austerities and efforts that are achieved by Jnana Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, by Bhakti, one can achieve the same these results. But one has to just render service, and by rendering service to the Lord and utilizing everything in the service of the Lord, one can get the same results what one can get by Jnana Yoga or by Ashtanga Yoga. A devotee by devotional service burns up all karma, stops activity of material senses. He always serves the Lord. So the result of devotional service is an ocean of bliss. One can get ananda from Brahman realization, but it is nothing compared to prema by devotional service. Ananda has got a limitation, but more advanced than that is prema, which one can realize by performance of devotional service. There is no limit to the bliss, and it increases all the time. So in devotional service, the devotees don't desire bliss, but they want to serve the Lord. The point is that devotees don't aspire for anything, including bliss. But the thing is, they always want to render service to the Lord. The output or the ultimate result of rendering service to the Lord is that they get full bliss. That is the result. Another big impediment in the path of our devotional service is we might perform devotional service, but we may have some subtle form of desires like puja, pratishtha, labh, which is a great impediment in the path of devotional service. If one has such desires, like he should be glorified, oh, this person came, he did a wonderful dressing to the Lord, or this person came, he did a wonderful kirtan. So if someone is expecting that these should come about to them, this is what is called puja, pratishtha, and labh, and that is also a material desire. And that is also a great impediment in the process of devotional service. When we were in the material world itself, we had a lot of desires. So when we come to take up the spiritual practice, we should gradually give up these on a regular basis by engaging in spiritual activities. So Lord also, Srila Prabhupada always says that killing material desire is not possible, but doubting is possible. So some examples are, we might want to eat something outside, but if we take Krishna Prasadam, then we automatically lose our interest for eating outside. Someone might feel a lot of sleepiness, but then if one attends Mangalarti and attends the morning program, one can conquer sleep. So in the Padma Purana, there is a very nice sloka which says, Ata Sri Krishna namadi na bhavet grahyam indriya sevanamukhi hi jigvado swayameva svaratyatah. Because Krishna's form, qualities, pastimes are all on absolute platform, material senses cannot therefore appreciate them. But when a conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness, has rendered service by using his tongue to chant the Lord's holy names and taste the remnants of the Lord's food, the tongue is purified and one gradually comes to understand who Krishna is. That means our senses have to be engaged in the service of Krishna, but it begins with the chant, utilizing our tongue by chanting the Lord's holy names and taste the remnants of the Lord, by which the tongue automatically becomes purified and one can then fully render service. It is very easy because one has to have prasadam, eat. So when one tastes the prasadam, two things happen. He starts chanting the holy name and also his tongue is purified and he develops a taste for prasadam. It is said that once a reporter came to Srila Prabhupada and asked him, Swamiji, how can we understand God? Srila Prabhupada replied, your understanding that God cannot be understood is the perfect understanding. That means Srila Prabhupada mentioned you cannot understand God. So if you have understood, that is a perfect understanding. But the reporter was, puzzled. So he asked the same thing question again, and Srila Prabhupada repeated the same. Then the reporter left, and later he asked one of Srila Prabhupada's disciple, what is the meaning that the Swamiji explained? That then the disciple explained, you cannot understand God. Understanding means standing under God. That means to understand God, one has to stand under God. So before concluding the class, I'll give a quotation of a sloka from the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. The personality of Godhead, translation is the personality of Godhead who appears in the mind of a devotee by attentive devotion and meditation, by chanting of the holy name, releases the devotee from the bondage of fruitive activities at the time of quitting his material body. So we have performed a lot of fruitive activities and we take the reactions for that. But the moment we start diverting our attention our mind by attentive devotion and meditation by chanting the holy name, then automatically one becomes released from this bondage. So hearing is the first process. That's why in even the 9 process of devotion service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, it starts with Shravanam. If we do a proper Shravanam, that is hearing, we will be able to do good Kirtanam also, and by which we will be able to remember Vishnu Smarana, have Vishnu Smaranam. That is the most important part of human life. That is to remember Krishna all the time. Also, from the soul point of view, spiritual point of view, the soul has a tendency, is constitutionally placed to have a loving relationship. We all can't sit in a house alone. That's why it's called man is a social animal materially. But the point is that living being cannot live alone. They need to have relationship with the Lord and the devotees. So for the moment we connect with the devotees, then we start releasing that relationships. The point is material desires when dovetailed to devotional service leads to pure devotions service at some time or the other. So when we may start practicing mixed devotion service, but gradually one can reach a pure devotion service over a period of time. It depends on the Lord's mercy also, but Krishna at the right time knows how to take away the material desires of a devotee when he sees the sincerity of the devotee. And Krishna gives the devotee the intelligence to understand this. That's why Krishna's mercy is very, very much required. If we take a correct example in today's situation, Srila Prabhupada engaged all the Westerners, Europeans, and all in devotional service. Not only he engaged, he gave them empowerment to do kirtan, to do preaching, that they could in turn empower other devotees of the Lord. So with this, I conclude the class for the day. If anyone has got any questions or any comments, they can ask me.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Prabhuji.
Thanks for a wonderful class, Prabhuji. Like Prabhuji, like Lord Buddha is also, they say, is incarnation of Krishna, isn't it, Prabhu?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And since Lord Buddha has taught about this void and other things, how to understand it? Prabhuji.
Okay.
Uh,
This answer is also given in Srimad Bhagavatam. Before the advent of Lord Buddha, there was an extraordinary high level of killing of animals that was taking place for sense gratification. But killing of animals is permitted only for sacrifice. For um, uh, uh, when a sacrifice is performed, the Lord, the enjoyer of the sacrifice is the Lord. But what happened in the name of the sacrifice? People used to left and right kill many animals for their own, for satisfying their own palate or their tongue. So when this became very, very extreme, then the Lord made arrangement for Lord Buddha to advent, because at that time people were more or less atheistic. So instead of converting them directly by to preach devotional service, Lord Buddha advented and he preached this nirvana, to preach that at least by taking up the process of this teachings of Lord Buddha, one can take one step forward. Because at that time, the people were so addicted to sinful activities that they were very reluctant to devotion service, taking up devotion service, which the Lord knew. So he advented as Lord Buddha to preach impersonalism, that is, somehow become free from material miseries. Then, after Lord Buddha came, it could not stop with that. Lord Shiva appeared to preach against this nirvana. And then he said that there is a personality of Godhead, and he came as a stepping stone, which was further followed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the point is that when situation is very, very difficult, the Lord knows how to do what. So first he sent Buddha, then he sent Lord Shiva to explain that impersonalism is not the right way of worship, but there's a personalism. Lord Shiva was a personal worshipper of the Lord. So from extreme animal killing came Buddha to preach impersonalism. That is what is nirvana that is mentioned here. But then nirvana is not the end. Then came Lord Shiva to preach that we are Lord has got a form. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to further take to a state where we are all part and parcel of the Lord. In the case of Lord Shiva, he came to preach a little bit of personalism, but also he also preached oneness with the Lord. We and Lord are the same. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach us simultaneously one and different. He said we are all part and parcel of the Lord. Being a part and parcel of the Lord, we are all qualitatively one with the Lord, but in terms of quantity, we are very, very insignificant compared to the Lord. This is how the whole process took place.
yes, Prabhuji.
Clear?
So yeah, it's clear, Prabhuji. So Buddha, in fact, he came, he just when he saw the animal killings are taking place too much, for that
Yes,
reason, for
yes,
taking the yes,
yes,
yes. And probably like when there's one question also arise in mind that when Krishna 5,000 years ago, there was only one Sanatan Dharma, there was nothing else.
yes,
Then later that other religions they came up, so many religions they came up. Why
yes.
is that, Prabhuji? How it was born like this? So many religions. This is where sometimes the question comes in the mind.
There is a narration for this given in Srimad Bhagavatam itself. When in one king rulers this during the reign of one king, Indra, Indra is always anxious about his position. That somebody, if he is doing tapasya, he will lose his position. So I forgot the name of the king. I'll try to remember. I don't know the name of the king. But at that time, Indra thought that this king is going to, this person is going to come, this person is doing a lot of austerities to come and take my position. So Indra at that time went to some place and he took shelter of the place as a false sannyasi. He didn't want to show himself as Indra, so he showed himself as a false sannyasi. And that was the beginning of the establishment of many apasampradayas. So many apasampradayas came up after Indra did this uh, false activity of identifying himself as a false sannyasi. He's not a sannyasi, but because Indra did this, and apparently, of course, in Kali Yuga, day by day we see, because the Kali Yuga is a degrading age. So we see every day some sampradaya, apasampradaya coming up. This is how the pastime happened. This is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. I got it, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dandavad Pranam.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Granthat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.